pre-COVID world. It's a lot of things are different. When you're new and starting out, they tell you don't want a gap on your resume, right? You don't want that. It's not going to look good. And then the world stopped. A lot of people were getting let go. We weren't able to work. Now people have large gaps and we're realizing, well, why does that didn't matter? Right, that doesn't say anything about like my work ethic or my value. It says more about circumstance. And then I think that's a big change. Other things like a lot of companies were in a hard spot where they unfortunately had to let people go. But we, from the outside of that, you see a lot of entry-level positions all of a sudden, regardless of how well they worked, having to either, get let go or be laid off. And so I think there's a lack of faith, especially when you're first starting off. You're like, I may not have job security anyway. Like if the going gets tough, I still might be having to find out another hustle. I'd rather just invest now.
Right. So what are the kinds of things people are transitioning to? Like for people who are specifically leaving in order to find more meaning in their life and in their career, are there specific things that people are kind of preferring to go towards professionally?
I think it's a big question and it really just depends on the individual, but I've noticed a big trend in like content creators and investing and cryptocurrencies. And every time I go on TikTok or my IG, it's like tips of how to start your own business or tips of how to grow your engagement strategy and how to monetize this and how to do that. And a lot of people are like really pouring into their own creative endeavors and their content endeavors.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think things have flipped. I mean, I think that, what's the phrase? We're not living to work anymore. We're working to live. Right? And snaps. I got snaps. Yeah. And so, and it's interesting because I think COVID accelerated a whole lot of things. I mean, if you think about, 30 years ago, a gap, I mean, if you didn't have, over 5 years somewhere, that was viewed as, they jump around too much. You shouldn't hire that person.
Right.
So it's completely it's morphing and shifting. And I think we're going from a very hierarchical way of doing things in which climbing the ladder, paying your dues, right, staying in a place for a long time was valued in a way that now, as we're shifting to more team-based structures, then it's more about, okay, what do I bring? What can I learn? What do I bring here, regardless of how long I've been in one place? And maybe better if I haven't been.
And skills-wise, too, it's looking a lot different. We're looking for a lot of people that can do multiple things, like jacks of all trades are becoming more and more valued. So I know that they used to tell you, like, pick a specification and stick with that. And now my last 2 years of college are like, don't go try a little bit, learn a little bit of this or that so that you can be the person that guarantees you work.
Yeah.
And now we have a whole bunch of skills that I'm like, okay, well, I could do a little bit of this and I could do a little bit of that. No, I loved trying this. And they're saying that Gen Z, we don't stay more often than not in a role for more than a year and a half before we get bored and switch.
Right.
A year and a half.
And that brings it back to the impact and the churn on organizations. And if you start to think about the traditional model of hiring and recruiting, if that retention door isn't, it's just this churn.
Right.
And so how can that, something's got to give at some point.
Yeah.
And we're in the midst of this really profound change. And I think that the people, I just have great empathy for anybody in doing talent acquisition right now, trying to figure out how do we keep work getting done, have the right people, build the culture. It's a tall order.
And if you don't love your company and you don't love your job and you don't find meaning in that work, you're gonna leave.
Yes.
And if you have a whole new toolbox of digital skills that are transferable and are very much wanted, you have options. And I think that's what we're seeing. People are like, oh, you want to make me work overtime, or I don't raise, or there's not a lot of opportunity here. Okay, well, bye. And it's that simple, I think.
It's interesting. Yeah, the people have been trying to, which is great. The last couple of years has been all about disrupting systems and redistribution of power, and it's really happening where employees have so much power, or potential employees. But it also means that organizations and their systems have to really be not just kind of interrogated and all of that, but we actually really redesigned. Like, think how expensive it is to hire, right? And so we hire people and we invest tremendous amounts of actual dollars in the hiring process and the onboarding process. And then the person leaves after a year and a half. That's a really unsustainable model.
Exactly.
Right? And so it's going to take some really heavy lifting as far as understanding like how to reconstitute these organizations. And while we're doing it, how to just go ahead and take advantage of the fact that it's disrupted anyway. And how do we build more equity, diversity, and inclusion into the fabric of what we're doing?